all related to the French Prime Minister's speech yesterday. Manuel Valls, he had an awful lot to say about the French economy, didn't he, Stephen?
Yeah, he did. It was certainly a break of what we've been hearing so much of austerity in recent budgets in France. In fact, there were tax cuts in that speech by the Prime Minister Manuel Valls, including a boost for low-paid workers who will see those earning just above the minimum wage, in fact, will see their social charges reduced. Now, for businesses, there was a lot more to celebrate, a whole range of tax cuts being announced, all part of the French government's so-called Responsibility Pact, this pledge to try to get companies to create jobs. But there was no commitment or insistence on a commitment from those companies to commit to creating jobs in the speech by the Prime Minister. So will these new measures go far enough? Well, Yuka Royer has been finding out.
As expected, plans to revamp France's economy dominated Manuel Valls' 47-minute speech in Parliament. The new Prime Minister said the government must, quote, open a new chapter.
Supporting private companies means supporting jobs, investments and exports. So yes, we will act to encourage companies.
Valls details the government's plan to slash the country's notoriously high labour costs by 30 billion euros through cuts on payroll charges, as well as reducing the corporate tax to 28% by 2020. The aim? To boost French firms' competitiveness by making it easier to hire people and make investments. Among the measures, dropping employer costs to zero for minimum wage workers. Small business owners are not overly convinced.
It's just a drop in the ocean considering the whole staff base. Payroll charges are very, very high in France.
By reducing costs, we may become more competitive on the market and see increased orders. Then we'll need more people. But until we actually start receiving more orders, we can't start hiring.
While promising to ease employers' burdens, the Prime Minister did not make any proposals for making France's labour market more flexible, something that the EU and the OECD have been calling for.
Yeah, watching Yuka's report there, it sounds like to me that's going to cost money the French government doesn't really have.
No, indeed. Now, it had budgeted for that 30 billion figure we saw in that package as part of the Responsibility Pact, but there was another 11 billion euros worth of tax cuts announced by Manuel Valls. This will go on top of the 50 billion the French government needs to cut in public spending by 2017. The Prime Minister gave some indication of where the budgets would be slashed. 19 billion going for the budget of public sector staff and state agencies, 10 billion from healthcare and another 10 from local government. That still leaves 11 billion to be found somewhere in the coffers. All of this while France needs to bring down its budget deficit. EU rules say it has to be below 3% by next year. A big challenge ahead for the Prime Minister.
Now, I've got some companies news next. Another recall of cars. Feels daily, this. This time it's Toyota. Nothing to do with the Spider, I hope, this time.
No, nothing to do with the Spider. This time the Japanese car maker says it's recalling almost 6.4 million cars, one of the biggest recalls in the company's history, in fact. Toyota says 26 models are affected by a range of problems, including issues with the steering column and an engine starter glitch. It comes a month after the firm agreed to pay $1.2 billion to settle criminal charges in the United States that it tried to cover up an accelerator fault that led to at least 5 deaths there.
Has it affected the company's shares at all?
Yeah, Toyota shares down over 3% in Tokyo today. In fact, it's across the board in the red on the Nikkei. Closed down over 2% in trading today. This is the value of the yen, made life more difficult for exporters like Toyota. Things looking more positive in Hong Kong, though. You can see the Hang Seng is up by 0.8%.
Let's try to cheer you up now. We're going to go to Washington, the International Monetary Fund. They've given us some upbeat news for once.
Yes, exactly. Nice to get a bit of good news, isn't it? The IMF says the risk of another global downturn has been sharply reduced, mainly thanks to the improved economic prospects in the United States and the United Kingdom. It says the global economy will grow by 3.6% this year. This is how the figures break down the forecast for this year. Things still not great in the Eurozone, only 1.2% growth forecast. That was one concern the IMF raised. Another was for Russia. The IMF revised down its growth forecast to 1.3%, partly due to the tensions over Ukraine. The fund says Russia does have large reserves, which would insulate it somewhat, but there are still some knock-on effects that'll be felt.
The first one is an investment climate, which was not perfect to start with, and is probably a bit worse, and more hesitation on the part of investors to either put their money in Russia or leave it in Russia, so that one can expect fairly substantial capital outflows.
Finally, one company for you trading in the virtual currency Bitcoin. They've made an effort to convince US lawmakers of its true value, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are still very unconvinced by Bitcoin, with good cause, considering some of the news that we've had recently about things collapsing. So this is RoboCoin. They brought a Bitcoin ATM to Capitol Hill in Washington to try to convince those lawmakers of the, I suppose, advantages of Bitcoin. Among those attending was the US Attorney General Eric Holder. He wasn't entirely convinced, though. He said he's still sceptical about the currency, possibly due to the fact that it could be used for illegal transactions. So a good try by RoboCoin, but perhaps not sold yet on those all-important lawmakers.
It'll be intriguing to see how Bitcoin does in the future. We shall continue, of course, to follow its fortune. Stephen, thanks a lot. Stephen on France 24. Now, coming up for you, the antics of a rather cute 4-year-old caught on camera. Today's web news, though, it begins with reaction to the commemorations this week in Rwanda.
Rwanda commemorated the 1994 genocide on Monday, lighting a flame that will burn for 100 days, the time it took for the slaughter to unfold, during which some 800,000 people were killed. Web users from all over the world have been marking the 20th anniversary of these tragic events. Social networkers have been posting under the hashtags Rwanda 20 years or Kwibuka 20, which means remember, to pay tribute to victims, and also share posters created for this solemn anniversary, highlighting the importance of remembrance and saying this type of atrocity can never happen again. Hundreds of web users from across the globe have taken part in the Upright Men project put together by visual artist Bruce Clark to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the genocide. They've posed with a sign reading, "I'm standing upright," to pay tribute to the thousands killed and show their solidarity with those who survived. Some survivors, however, remember very little or nothing at all about the genocide and now want to move on. Born in May 1994, Kobe Hatige Kamina is 20 years old. Features in a piece on the website of French newspaper Le Monde. He, like many of his generation, feel it's time to close this dark chapter in the history of his country and look to the future. Election signs like these have been popping up across Toronto, Canada over the past week, depicting fictitious candidates for the upcoming October 27th municipal elections. They're promising just to smoke pot and not crack or not get caught on camera when they urinate in public. A satirical campaign launched by the No Ford Nation movement, which openly mocks the mishaps and misdemeanours of the current Toronto Mayor Rob Ford, who's running for re-election. Rob Ford's unfortunate incidents have inspired two developers at Canada's Waterloo University who created the online site Rob Ford the Game. Our hero has to collect cannabis leaves and bottles of wine whilst avoiding police and journalists before the timer, represented as public opinion, runs out. Another online initiative targeting the Mayor of Toronto ahead of the municipal elections. This job offer, published on classified ads website Craigslist, looking for someone to play a tuba while following Rob Ford around for a day. The ad was posted by the Unethical Hack site, which has said on its Facebook page that the post has been filled and the tuba stunt will be happening soon. But these online attacks from critics don't seem to have impacted Rob Ford's confidence. In his recent YouTube videos, he claims he has strong public support and is convinced he'll be re-elected in October.
Everybody, but a lot of people that I meet, so they're going to support me.
This animated infographic will no doubt prove popular with Michael Jackson fans, and in particular, those looking to master his famous moonwalk. Put together by Jacob O'Neill and available on the site animagraphs.com, this graphic breaks down the steps to the legendary dance move created by the late King of Pop. This American dad has produced a video compilation of some of his 4-year-old daughter's livelier Saturday morning antics over a 3-month period. Dancing, music, noisy toys, not the most relaxing way to ease into the weekend. It's great fun, and you can check it out in its entirety on the Bottle Rocket YouTube channel.
A few fairly cute images and a grumpy dad by the looks of that, just to chew up a little bit here on France 24. Coming up for you after the break, in today's Focus, we've been reporting this week on the massive 815 million people set to vote in India, the world's biggest ever election. But what are they voting for? Well, we'll be profiling Narendra Modi, the front runner. Who is he? What does he represent? That's in the next half hour.